That's the one thing about our audience. They always want a new guy to break through the glass ceiling.
All you have to do is just be real.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. I am the jabroni beating, pie eating, trailblazing, eyebrow raising, talking is done, you're out of your class, no sleep till Brooklyn, The Rock whips your ass. Woo!
I wish you and King would quit talking.
Okay, so, you ready?
Yep.
All right. Oh, shit, what episode is this? As you can tell, I'm not a very prepared guy half the time. All right, welcome to Around the Ring, episode 38 for today, Sunday, October 11th, 2015. I'm your host, Dave Brown. Thank you for joining us. We have a special guest this week. We have Michael from WrestlingExpress.net. How's it going, Michael?
Good, how about you?
Doing well, doing well. So tell us about your website.
Well, I founded Wrestling Express back in January, and have been, growing it since January, putting in the work, and, yeah.
Cool. So what kind of, other than just basic wrestling news, what's your, I guess, angle on the whole wrestling news website thing? Because so many different sites do slightly different things. What do you want to cover, and what's your kind of take on it?
Well, I mean, I guess the best way for me to explain it is my site is one of the few that it doesn't matter the type of fan you are, there's something for you.
Oh, nice.
Because I have so much knowledge on so many different bases, whether it's the history, WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor. Doesn't really matter. I can cover it all.
Oh, great. Right. So, speaking of, how did you first get into wrestling?
Well, I could probably attribute it to the fact that my dad was a wrestling fan when he was growing up. So he more so pushed us to, or helped us gravitate to wrestling.
Good dad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. And what were some of the first things? When did you first start watching it? Do you remember what were the events, or who were the big players at the time?
I started watching during the Attitude Era.
Okay, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. And who were some of your favorites from back then?
Probably DX. Austin. The NWO.
Okay.
I think, from what I remember, Dallas Page too.
Oh, I love DDP. He was fantastic. So when you first got into it, were you mostly a WWE fan, or did you gravitate toward everything that you could find, or how did that happen?
From what I remember, we were one of those people who switched between Nitro and Raw on Monday nights. We didn't really watch one in particular.
I miss those days. I really miss the competition, and I myself, I was always a WCW guy. 'Cause I got into wrestling in '85, I think it was, and I forget how exactly I got into it, but I remember someone gave me a VHS copy of WrestleMania 2, which by all standards is probably one of the worst WrestleManias ever, but I devoured that thing. And became a fan, and then I started watching any wrestling I could find, and at the time there was a lot of the old Crockett promotion stuff, the NWA on TBS, so I was watching 6 o'clock on Saturday mornings, 6 o'clock at night on Saturdays, and then I got to watch World Class, Championship Wrestling, and anything I could find get my hands on. But I always, even though it was WWE that got me into it, it was really what became WCW is what hooked me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you've also followed TNA, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what do you think of it now?
I knew this question would come. I think that at this point, I mean, I'm not going to say what everybody else says, that TNA should just go out of business, because I completely disagree with that, as more companies, especially on TV, are great for the business, but they had so much potential, and I think that the potential they once had is not non-existent anymore. But if they get the creative direction under the right way, going the right way and under control, I think they could still make something of it.
What would you say are some of the big steps they need to do, either behind the scenes or just creatively and on the camera, that needs to turn the ship around?
Well, I mean, from what I've heard, they've righted the ship somewhat with creative, but over the last 13 years, they've done that how many times, and they've always went back to making the same mistakes. Yeah. But in my opinion, I think Dixie Carter needs to stay away from creative and just focus on running the company. And I don't know about other people, but I'm just not very confident in that creative team.
You know, I can see that. TNA came about at a time when I had stopped watching wrestling. I kind of stopped right as WCW went out of business. Mm-hmm. And I'd fizzled out a little bit before that, but WCW got so bad at the end that I just kind of stopped. And so I missed the vast majority of TNA, and I've gone back and watched some things. I don't know. There's something about the six-sided ring that wigs me out to no end. I can't stand it. I don't like it in AAA. I don't like it in TNA. I don't like it anywhere. It's just awful. But the older stuff I've watched, I watch it, I'm like, okay, this really feels like this is where all the old WCW guys went. At least the behind-the-scenes guys, because he had Mike Tenay doing commentary, and he is one of the, for better or worse, most distinctive voices in the world. I'm not a big Mike Tenay fan, at least not as your main color commentary guy. I thought he did okay with as like the counterpoint to Tony Schiavone back on Nitro. And the thing, when I look at TNA, I look at their roster. I'm like, God, there's some really talented folks on here. Why does this product blow so bad? And I try to watch it, and I feel bad. I'm like, I want to watch this because I, like you, I don't want it to go out of business. I agree. There needs to be more companies, more competition, and more people on TV for the health of the business. But you watch it, and even the bright moments, EC3, for example, who is fantastic, you just...
Agree.
Yeah, it's so hard to get around everything else. And then they keep losing people left and right, and I don't. To me, I think the only way to fix it is to basically, in kayfabe terms at least, shut it down, rebrand it, new name, new titles, start all over, keep most of the same roster, bring in some new people, and just clean slate it. Because I'm sorry, TNA is one of the stupidest names for a company ever. Hey, we're gonna
totally agree.
Yeah, we're gonna call it Tits and Ass. What are you, 12? God. That's awful.
You would have thought that the Jarretts would have been able to come up with something better.
Yeah, you're giving them way too much credit. At least Jeff. I've never been a fan of Jeff Jarrett.
Oh, Global Force Wrestling isn't as bad as TNA.
That is true. I will give you that. Have you watched any of GFW stuff other than what's been on TNA?
Honestly, no.
Yeah, me neither. I've seen clips here and there of house shows which have really sad attendance. But to be fair, it is a brand new brand.
Exactly.
I think Jeff Jarrett is... Sometimes I think Jeff Jarrett thinks he's way more important than he is, and instead of booking places that, he should be booking like places that hold 200 people. So that way, when only 150 show up, it still looks packed. Instead of ballparks, it never looks good in a ballpark, ever. I don't care. I mean, you could have WrestleMania in a baseball field, and it would probably still look terrible. Just the configuration of a baseball field is not conducive to a wrestling event. Even back in the glory days of the AWA, when they had some of their stuff in ball fields, it just looked sad. Man, so yeah, I want to like TNA. I try, but I can't, and I want it to right itself. Hopefully it will. I mean, but you're right. Dixie has got to stay away from creative. They really just need to fire everyone in creative and start over.
Well, I mean, I'm not a big fan of Billy Corgan, but that's just me.
You know, I liked Smashing Pumpkins' first two records. Gish and Siamese Dream are brilliant. Everything after that sucks, in my opinion. That's a whole other story.
Yeah.
But he does come off as a grade A tool. Really arrogant putz. Apparently, and I never saw any of it, but his organization that he ran for a while, his little territory, was apparently not terrible.
I heard the same thing.
But now, if TNA was to go under, who from that roster would you like to see go where?
Huh. That's a tough question. I could see at least Eddie going back to Ring of Honor. I don't think Davey would because of how their relationship ended the last time. When Davey left, when both of them left, actually. I think Eddie could go back to ROH.
They burned bridges pretty bad as a team when they left.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Davey did. Eddie didn't.
Okay.
And they both would definitely go back to PWG, so that probably happens. I think I could see Bobby Roode. Well, most of them would end up in GFW.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I think I could see Bobby Roode ending up in NXT.
I could see that.
Yeah. And, well, I could see the Wolves also going back to Japan, too, so...
Yeah, I think a lot of these guys could and gals could end up in Japan easily. Whether it's for Pro Wrestling Noah or for New Japan. You know, I'd like to see... there's a part of me that would really like to see the Wolves and Bobby Roode and Austin Aries all in NXT, and same with EC3. I'd like to see them in NXT. The Hardys need to just be back in the WWE now as it is.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about the Hardys.
You know, Kurt Angle should come back to the WWE for basically one last match, one last program before his body completely dies and, you know, he's a vegetable because he's just been insane.
Absolutely.
And Gail Kim should come back to WWE. The Divas division could really use her, and they really need to rename that to the Women's division. That's a whole other topic.
Very true. I completely agree.
I like that James Storm is in NXT now, or at least kind of. My understanding, he has kind of that Rhino deal, but
yeah.
Yeah. But so did Samoa Joe, and that turned into a full-time thing. So I guess we'll see how it goes. And one thing I really did like, because it always irks me to no end when people come into WWE and have to get new names. And that always irked me going back years when Mike Rotunda showed up in WWE and it was like, I'm IRS. I'm like, no, motherfucker, you're Mike Rotunda. What are you doing? What is this stupid gimmick?
Well, I mean, Vince does that to start from the bottom because he doesn't want you to have what you made somewhere else. He wants to make you.
Which is insane, in my opinion. I mean, on I can understand from like copyright standpoints.
There you go. He wants the merchandising. He wants everything.
Yeah, to me, that's short-sighted. If someone has built up a reputation and they're brought in, at least acknowledge it. Like what they did with Asuka, what they did with Finn Balor. acknowledging, okay, this person had an identity before, Hideo Itami as well, and then giving them a new name. Okay, that at least I can stomach. And Finn Balor, that's a cool name. I got to give him props on that.
I agree. Yeah, good name.
But I think the Wolves would work really well in NXT. There's a part of me that would like to see Eric Young come to NXT, but I don't think that would ever work or happen. I like him, but I don't know what the hell is going on with him. Uh-oh. I think we lost our call. So where were we? We were
talking about Eric Young.
Eric Young. What are your thoughts on Eric Young?
I think that you remember when he was back when he turned heel the first time and he was part of the World Elite?
No, I actually did not see that, but tell me about it.
Well, TNA had this stable with Daivari from WWE, Kiyoshi from Japan, Magnus, Doug Williams, Rob Terry, all international people.
Okay.
And EY joined the stable by pile driving AJ Styles. And since the pile driver is a banned move, I can't do air quotes on a podcast, so so they made a big deal about him turning, but nothing came of the turn, and nothing came of the big push, other than him pile driving AJ Styles. But I think if they would have pushed him to the world title then, it wouldn't have been seen as him winning the world title because he looks like Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, and actually that was the time I was really I first saw Eric Young was when he threw that whole winning the world title because, he's looks like Daniel Bryan and TNA was desperate for ratings. But I gotta say, I think TNA did a much better job of booking him as world champion than WWE did booking Daniel Bryan as champion.
Yeah. Then again, Eric Young stayed healthy.
True. But even before Daniel Bryan got hurt, he was in that pretty forgettable feud with Kane.
True.
And there was all those segments where they just made him look stupid. And sometimes I think that WWE, at least the real high uppity ups, i.e. Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn, don't know what to do with a guy like Bryan or a guy like CM Punk. And they almost don't know what to do with Seth Rollins because they're basically ruining him now.
Kevin Dunn wouldn't know what to do with a paper bag if a paper bag could work.
That's true. Obviously, I mean, just look at Cesaro. I think that company is going to be so much better off when, I think more than anyone else, when Kevin Dunn leaves. Even when Vince leaves, it'll be a big thing, but Kevin Dunn probably will not leave until Vince leaves, because Vince had that whole relationship, something where Vince's dad owed something to Kevin Dunn's dad and made a promise that they would always take care of him, and so that's why we're stuck with that schmuck, at least according to urban legend. But man, you talk, and their obsession with guys that look like John Cena and Randy Orton. And then they screw things up where you've got, in the last 5 years, you've had two guys who organically got over in Punk and Bryan, and they did pretty good with Punk, even though they never really treated him like he was a real main eventer. But they completely screwed the pooch with Bryan, and they're doing it again and again, even though ironically so many of the people that are coming in have more in common with Punk and Bryan than they do with Cena and Orton.
Well, I think the only reason why they're withholding Bryan is because of the concussion lawsuit that so many other former talent are filing against him.
True.
And, making somebody come back from a concussion may not look the best.
That is true, and it's probably if/when that thing gets settled or thrown out or whatever, he'll be right back.
Yeah, it'll get thrown out. There's no grounds for that, but that's just me.
I agree wholeheartedly. So before we get into the shows for this last week, there was a question that Rock Bottom Radio posted today on Twitter that I thought would be kind of interesting to discuss. So the question was, if you could only watch one wrestler's work for a whole year and no one else's, who would you choose?
Cesaro.
Good choice. Yeah, mine, I couldn't narrow it down to one. I was like, I had to say 5, and this is of current talent. Either Sami Zayn, Cesaro, Bayley, Adam Cole, or The New Day. I can watch anything those people do, and I'm glued to it.
Completely agree.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I will tell you that the reason I picked Cesaro was because I think it was the 03 Ted Petty Invitational with IWA Mid-South. By far one of the best matches I've ever seen was Mike Quackenbush versus Cesaro from that tournament.
Oh, wow.
The finish for that match was incredible.
What happened?
You know Sami Zayn's pin where he like rolls over the guy?
Yeah.
He runs up the guy and rolls over him?
Yes.
Well, Cesaro and Quack did that, and they did a complete flip. And instead of Quack pinning Cesaro, Cesaro was pinning Quack.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm going to have to go and find that match. Is that on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, if you know easily where that is, if you wouldn't mind sending a link to that to me at some point, I would really appreciate it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah, I love Cesaro, and I am amazed that they just don't know what to do with the guy. And that when Vince McMahon was on Stone Cold's podcast, that it was so telling when he was like, well, maybe it's because he's foreign. I just wanted to smack the man. It's so frustrating, you know?
Well, it's pretty obvious people that don't know how to talk won't make it in WWE. But that's why you had Cesaro with Zeb Coulter and you put him with Paul Heyman. But you didn't invest in them. Managers are good for people who can't talk. Look what Zeb Coulter did for Swagger.
That is true.
I don't know why they broke that team up.
Yeah, and they were starting to really get over. And see, I don't think that Cesaro is really necessarily a bad talker. I mean, he's no Rock, but no one is. But he's not awful. Especially if you watch that Table for Three that was on this week with him and Ambrose and Kevin Owens. Cesaro is a very charismatic guy. Sure, he has a slight accent, but who cares?
Well, also it's like you said, WWE isn't one for pushing foreign people.
True, that is true. They love their white guys and gals.
Very true.
Hitler would be proud. Oh, that's awful. God. Now people are saying, oh man. So okay, so top 5 all-time favorite wrestlers.
Wow. Flair. Flair, Terry Funk, Shawn Michaels. I guess I gotta go with Daniel Bryan, Cesaro, and Tyler Black.
Okay, very good. Very good. Yeah, my all-time top 5, and I spend way too much time creating top 5 lists. I love lists. But mine are Arn Anderson, Sting, the person who was never supposed to ever be talked about, but everything that happened with him was when I wasn't wrestling, so I try to forget that it ever happened, Chris Benoit, Ricky Steamboat, and The Rock.
I totally forgot about Steamboat and Double A.
Oh, yeah.
They're fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
They're fantastic.
Yeah. Steamboat, the best arm drag ever in professional wrestling. And I saw recently, I forget where the match was or who it was, but someone did a very Steamboat-esque arm drag. And I wish I could remember. But yeah,
it's a shame what happened to his son, Richie.
What happened to him?
He got a severe back injury and was forced to retire.
Damn, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
See, there was some good stuff that happened. Well, that's not good, but interesting stuff that happened in the years that I wasn't paying attention. Which sucks.
Oh yeah, that was before NXT. He was before NXT.
Yeah.
He was a main guy in Florida Championship Wrestling. Their previous developmental.
You know what I wish that WWE Network would do is they've got to have tapes of FCW and OVW and all that stuff. They need to put that stuff on the network.
FCW, yes. I think Danny Davis still owns OVW's tape library.
They should at least buy the years that they were developmental or rent them or something from OVW for the years that WWE was working with them. That would be great for the network.
Oh yeah, definitely. You could see people like Cena and Orton and Brock, Batista. Who else was down there?
Shelton Benjamin.
Yeah, Shelton Benjamin. No, Haas was in Heartland. Yeah, I think Haas was with Les Thatcher. WWE's had so many developmentals; it's hard to keep track of who came from where.
That is true. That is true. I would.
Memphis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that would just be a really cool thing to add to the network. I love the new stuff they're doing. The 24 specials are great. Almost anything documentary wise.
Yeah, WWE does great with that stuff.
Yeah. The Table for Three, I've enjoyed the hell out of. I think that is a lot of fun.
Yeah, seems like it.
But they need to add in more old stuff, and I know they've said that stuff doesn't get watched very often. But if you have the same 5 old matches on there, of course it's not going to get watched very often.
True. True.
But, go ahead.
They want the old stuff to get watched more than the new stuff.
True, but on the other hand, if it's bringing in people buying the network, who cares? If it's all about money, whatever you have to do to get people to invest in that network to up those subscription numbers. And because I know people that are, in fact, I had a coworker that I just found out is a wrestling fan, and because I forget, we were talking, some reference to the Four Horsemen came up, and I said, no, if I'm going to be a member of the Horsemen, I'm Arn Anderson. And he just lit up. He's like, oh my god, an Arn Anderson reference, that's awesome. And we were talking, and he doesn't really follow the product very much anymore, but he really likes what he's seen on NXT. And I think NXT is going to be the way in for a lot of these older fans, that the people that gave up after WCW went away. And if you had a lot of this older content on there, and even just random old stuff that people can find, and when they're bored, I just finished watching whatever AWA special it was. I wonder what else is on here. What's this NXT thing? And they could get hooked.
Yeah, I'll make 2 points about that, and that is NXT, I feel, is just like the 80s because of the simplistic booking, because I feel that the 80s were more simplistic, and I still think that the simplistic booking would work on the main roster, but that also shows how much of a person for the past that Triple H is.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think the simple is better, because if you think about what I consider the best wrestling shows on TV now, which are NXT, Ring of Honor, and Lucha Underground, it's all pretty simple stuff. It's straightforward booking. Person A is pissed at person B, so they want to beat the crap out of them. Or, person C wants the title, so it goes after person X. It's not rocket science, So yeah, I agree. I think I think they do on the main roster. They try way too hard, but if you've got a committee of however many people doing the booking, of course it's going to be complicated and gross.
Well, it's not even just that. It's you have people, nobody on the roster, or well, most of the main roster writers weren't wrestling fans. They're just there because they know how to write weekly television.
Yeah, and I don't understand the logic behind that. I mean, having one or two people in your writing group that aren't just wrestling fans or that didn't come from wrestling isn't necessarily a bad idea. It brings in a fresh perspective. But having an entire team that is primarily made up of TV writers, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, well, cheap plug for the Breaking Kayfabe from Kayfabe Commentaries with Bruce Pritchard. It was the guest booker. Sorry, guest booker with Bruce Pritchard from Kayfabe Commentaries. Bruce Pritchard says it best. They're best when they compliment people who know how to write wrestling TV, like Bruce Pritchard and Freddie Prinze Jr.
Yeah, exactly.
At the same time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I agree. Cool. Well, I guess you want to talk about what happened this last week?
Sounds good.
Okay, so I'll let you choose. We have. You do want to talk about the god awfulness that was Raw? You want to talk about Takeover or Ring of Honor?
Well, I got to get it out of the way sometime, so let's just get Raw out of the way.
Okay. I've got a little kind of segment by segment breakdown. We'll just kind of go through it and give thoughts and whatnot. So the show opened up with a replay of all the Kane, Rollins, HR chick crap from last week, which just made me want to vomit. Then Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman came out for a promo. What do you think of that?
I think Paulie's promo gold every time he comes out in the ring. His old school promos are so unique and so different than any other person on the roster. And I don't know how he doesn't run or isn't a guest in promo class down in NXT, because he could help anybody and everybody get so much better at promos.
You're right. That is, and who knows? Maybe he does occasionally go down there. If I was Triple H, I would definitely be looking into seeing if he would be interested in doing that at a few times a month, once a month, something. Because his promos are.
Look who he learned from. He learned from Dusty.
Yep, exactly. He learned from Dusty, and he cut his teeth working alongside guys like Jim Cornette.
And good old JR.
And JR, exactly. And, Ellering, the guy who was the Road Warriors manager.
Paul Ring, yeah.
Yep.
Rick Rude, Double A.
Yeah. Oh, I miss those days. Yeah. And then Big Show had to come out, which we did get the entertaining and pretty impressive belly-to-belly suplex that Lesnar did on a Big Show. What'd you think of the MSG special?
Well, I think what I said when I tweeted out Saturday night to promote one of my posts, saying why watch a poorly promoted house show when you could support an independent company like Alpha One Wrestling.
Good point. See, if I wasn't so poor, I would go to more. But in my defense, we don't have a whole lot of small organizations here in Oklahoma. I think we have maybe 3, and none of them are really near where I live. So that's a bummer.
Yeah.
But so Big Show got a few, not many, but a few of the "Please Retire" chants. What are your thoughts on Show at this point?
I think he can hang it up tomorrow and be a damn good color commentator.
I agree. That is...
He out of the booth, put Big Show in there. The "Please Retire" chants, oh, stop, and the ratings, oh, thank you.
I've been... Speaking of the commentary team, and I didn't watch it this week because I knew you were coming on the show, but I've been doing a flashback segment where I got the idea when the 20th anniversary of Nitro happened a few weeks ago. And so I've been watching old Nitros. And I'm watching this, and I realize, my God, JBL really wants to be Mongo McMichael, and Michael Cole is trying his hardest to be Eric Bischoff from 1995. And they're not that team was very good, because...
Dig a little deeper with the connection. I'm trying to figure out what you're saying.
So if you go back and watch Nitro, and you listen to the way that they do commentary, forget Bobby Heenan because he was gold. But I get the Mongo and JBL reference because I remember Mongo making obscure references all the time. To me, I listen to it and I think that either one, it's a subconscious thing where these guys just watched a lot of Nitro and kind of got ideas from them, or someone behind the scenes, maybe it's Michael Hayes, is saying this was a good way to do it. It's just their styles are so similar, and in some ways annoyingly abrasive. Now sometimes the Raw commentary team can have moments where it's good and funny. There are a few times when one of them will make a quip that really makes me laugh. And I give credit where credit's due. And to be fair, Cole and Byron Saxton on that Beast in the East special did a great job. Well, it's because Vince wasn't screaming in their ear the entire time.
I was just about to say the same thing.
So maybe in their defense on Raw, if Vince would just shut the hell up and let them talk, it wouldn't be as awful as it is.
Yeah, that's. I know off the top of my head, I can tell you probably Michael Cole and JBL definitely get their lines fed in, but I know Jerry Lawler doesn't. Because it's been said in the past that Vince has tried, and Lawler basically told him, I don't need this job, you try and tell me what to say, I'm going to quit.
That's awesome. But he's also so bad.
I mean, why do you think he's on SmackDown now?
That's true. Oh God, he is unbearable sometimes. As bad as JBL.
I'm not going to say I would rather have JBL on Raw, but
I would I'd rather have neither of them, really.
I mean, I just don't know how Byron Saxton could be so much better on NXT than on Raw.
Vince McMahon's not screaming in his ear on NXT.
Probably.
But I think on NXT I think Rich Brennan, Corey Graves, and Byron Saxton have developed this really good chemistry.
Yeah.
And because Byron Saxton is this almost Urkel-esque nerdy guy, and Corey Graves just tears into him about that. And they try to do that to some extent on Raw, but it just doesn't quite work as well.
Well, nobody has the personality of Corey Graves.
See, now, I kind of like Corey Graves. I like his...
Corey's the best announcer. Well, I'm kind of biased to ROH announce team, but I think Corey Graves is one of the best announcers in wrestling.
Oh, I would agree with you there, and I also love Ring of Honor's announcing team. But yeah, Corey Graves, he's understated. He's cocky. He's very. I enjoy the hell out of him. He's just a lot of fun. So back to Raw. We then had Seth Rollins and Stephanie McMahon backstage, with Rollins basically pooping his pants, having a hissy fit, and Stephanie telling him to suck it. Essentially. So is it me, or do you kind of see them taking Stephanie and Triple H and turning them into kind of tweeners, almost babyface authority figures lately?
Yeah, I agree with you.
And I kind of enjoy that. I love that they're just giving Rollins nothing but crap.
After so long of the same shit, it's nice and fresh.
Yes, yeah. And Triple H, as we've seen in his appearances on NXT, he can do the babyface thing quite well.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's really good.
Yeah. So we then had the Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, Randy Orton versus the Wyatts match. I think my favorite part of that whole match was there was a moment when Orton was in the ring with Strowman, and he did that wacky little dance thing right before he poked Strowman in the eye.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I'm a sucker for facial expressions and things like that, and Orton does some great facial expressions.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed him so much more as a babyface in the last few months than when he was the Authority's main heel guy.
Yeah, I said it right when he came back. I said, this is Randy's prime. He's never been better. He's never been better. He's never been more over than he was since he came back. When did he come back? Like February?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and as I think it was the guys on Wrestling Soup always make fun of Orton, and they say that once there's like 1 month out of every year where he cares, and lately it seems like he's cared for like 6 months, and he's put on great matches and he's been fun.
I just hope that Orton ends up being the one that puts over Bray Wyatt, because if Orton doesn't and Roman doesn't, what does that say about Roman?
Oh, God. I have this whole kind of love-hate thing with Roman Reigns, and it has so much more to do with the way he's been booked than with him. I think he's not terrible in the ring. He's actually pretty good at times. Yeah. He can have a decent promo if he's just being himself. But the way he was pushed from the moment the Shield broke up was nauseating. And
the dude's been protected for 2 years.
That is true.
He's been protected for 2 years. That's ridiculous.
And it's funny how the naysayers would make fun of the Royal Rumble crowds was it 2013 when he eliminated more people than anyone else and people were losing their shit. And then I guess I was in 2014, and then this year when he won the whole thing and he was showered in boos, probably unlike anything other than when Hulk Hogan, turned heel and formed the NWO. It was that boisterous of a boo. But to me, I remember watching those, it's like, okay, well, the one felt natural. Sure, he's been protected, but he hasn't been been promoted as the main guy, and it's you're watching this match and you're like, out of the middle of nowhere, it's like this guy is taking over. You're like, holy shit, this guy might actually win. Especially once everyone realized, well, there's no Daniel Bryan, and poor Batista's like, well, we don't want this guy. But then a year later, and it's a foregone conclusion, everyone's like, yeah, he's going to win.
Yep.
And especially the way they booked that and had Bryan just get dumped out like a bitch.
It was booked terribly.
It was. The first part of it was pretty good. The parts where Wyatt was just running through everyone, and I loved that visual where it was just him in the ring. He'd thrown out everybody, and he was just waiting. Now, had they had the balls to make him the winner, that would have been great. Or maybe had it come down to Wyatt, Reigns, and Bryan, and Wyatt would get eliminated, and then Reigns eventually eliminates Bryan. Bryan gets back in the ring, shakes his hand. It could have changed everything.
Yeah. That's what Cornette and Jim Ross said.
Yeah.
You had to have Bryan endorse Reigns.
Yeah, and then when they did that, a month later, it was just almost too little, too late. Though that was a cool moment when he was like, "You better kick his ass." Even though I still think as surprisingly good as that match at WrestleMania was, a Bryan Lesnar match would have been 1,000 times better.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't trust Daniel Bryan going against Brock Lesnar after just coming back from his debilitating injury that Bryan had. I wouldn't trust him in the ring with Brock, but
yeah, that would have been. I understand why they didn't do it. The poor guy would have been killed.
You're darn right.
So this whole match led up to the Reigns Wyatt Hell in a Cell match come later this month. Are you looking forward to that?
before their big brawl, their Memphis-esque brawl to end Raw 2 weeks ago, no. But after that, how good that was, I'm very much more looking forward to it.
That was good. That was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really well... And those two guys, I think, complement each other extremely well. Actually, I would say the six of them, and even going back with Eric Rowan, the Shield guys and the Wyatt family, those six guys, and even now with Strowman, really complement each other.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if any of them are going to break through.
Yeah, sadly, you're probably right. Maybe if there's a change in the guard and Triple H can get more control.
Yeah, because it seems like that glass ceiling has came back after being shattered.
Yeah.
But I don't know why it keeps coming back.
I think it's because the people on top they know what they know, and they had success with something, and they think that's the only way there is. Despite the fact that professional wrestling had been around decades before they had been around, and even since then, various different things have been successful. They just have their boner for this one type of guy and one type of match and one type of woman.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it's just that some certain people in higher management can't accept the fact that the only reason why they're even relevant is because of wrestling.
That is true.
That fucking bucktooth TV producer.
What he is? I tell you what, that man is so lucky.
He's set for life.
Yep. Okay, so we then had Neville and Sheamus. Goddamn, I hate Sheamus.
I'll tell you, Sheamus came on the TV and the ratings dropped a full point.
And what's sad is it's not that Sheamus can't have good matches, because he can. It's just... Okay, answer me this. What is it that he yells when he's standing on the stage right before his intro? I'm sorry, say it again.
I don't know.
Okay, at least I'm not the only one. Because he used to just scream "fella" when he was a babyface, which made no sense. And now it's like a sentence or two. And I'm like, what are you saying? He's boring as all get out.
He's horrible.
And Neville is just, they don't know what to do with that guy. Part of me is just like, can we just send him back to NXT, please? Where he at least knows they know how to book him.
Yeah. He's a superstar.
And I'm guessing that now Neville and Barrett are going to have a program.
Why? I don't know.
And Barrett's another guy, I think, that's just a victim of horrible booking.
Wasted. He's so wasted.
That is I think one of the themes of WWE right now is wasted potential.
Yeah, the common consensus of half the roster is wasted potential.
Exactly. We then had Corporate Kane doing an in-ring promo. This whole Kane doing the "I'm really a nice guy" thing kind of cracks me up, because he gets into it big time.
Yeah, you and me both.
But that segment was pretty lame overall. They did with the whole let's kiss ass or annoy the crowd by making sports references. Seth Rollins is backstage with Triple H. I don't even remember why. Then we had Natalya against Paige. It was good. Another good pop for Paige when she came out. I did like that Cole made a reference to Paige's anti-diva thing. And then Natty got a clean win with the sharpshooter, which I swear she puts on backwards. She has the legs in all the wrong position, but hey, I wasn't the one trained in the dungeon, she was, so okay, fine. And why are Canadian wrestlers, especially Canadian wrestlers with any connection to Hart family, completely obsessed with using the sharpshooter?
They can't think of any other finish to use?
It's just, And most of them do it really well. Tyson Kidd does sharpshooter quite well. But
Yeah.
you watch how Natalia does it, Tyson does it, Owen did it, Brett
Lance
obviously,
did.
Benoit did it. Like,
Lance
God,
Storm did it.
Lance Storm, yeah. Like, what is is that all they taught you guys in the dungeon? That and how to hurt?
Well, I mean, if you're not trained by Stu Hart, I guess you're not trained very much.
Yeah, true.
And again, you're getting trained by a fireman. What can he teach you?
That having been said, there was a hell of a lot of good talent that came out of that dungeon.
You're darn right. You're darn right.
Jesus, man.
From Superstar Billy Graham all the way up to Tyson.
Yep. Yeah, and it's a shame what happened to Tyson Kidd.
Oh, yeah.
Especially right as he's finally getting over, and with a gimmick that works. And he and Cesaro were such a good tag team.
Yeah. I mean, it struck all at once with the tag team division. Struck all at once.
Yeah.
I mean, first Jay, and then Tyson, and then Eric Rowan.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that was the tag team division for a long time, was just those guys. And
because Strowman and Luke Harper are a horrible tag team.
Yeah, they're not good. Strowman and Harper and Rowan had a really good chemistry.
Yeah,
and Harper's amazing. Rowan's not that great, but you put him with Harper and he's good.
Yeah, that's why his push as a babyface flopped.
Oh yeah, exactly. Strowman is just too green. I mean, I think he has some potential.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the guy's freaking Sasquatch, man. He's just sickeningly huge.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of, here, let's bring in Chris Jericho, who is, I'm like 5'7". He's like barely 3 inches taller than I am. Let's bring in this small guy to go against Sasquatch in the last pay-per-view. I'm like, what? That made no sense. Of course, they didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, because Jericho doesn't want to work anymore.
Yeah, it's true. I will say, I think it's cool that he basically says, I will do house shows.
Yeah, that's true. Gives a treat.
Yeah.
Especially with Cena taking time off.
Yeah, no kidding. So there have been rumors going around back to Paige that she apparently has really pissed someone off backstage, and that her loss to Natty was kind of a demotion.
I mean, I heard a little bit about it, but I saw on some dirt sheet, I think they possibly took it from Dave Meltzer with The Observer, and they said that that's not true. But I don't know. You never know what's going on backstage in WWE.
That is true. But on the flip side, maybe it's they want to bring Natalia back in and give her more credence. Because, with her being home taking care of Tyson, she's really missed all of the quote-unquote Divas Revolution stuff. And when you get her in the ring with someone who doesn't suck, she's really good. So maybe it was just, hey, let's remind people that this chick can actually go.
And then again, you can count on one hand the amount of people in that division that don't suck.
Yeah. Charlotte, Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, Paige, Natalia. Yep, pretty much one hand right there.
That's about it. Yeah.
Nikki Bella has gotten passable.
Yeah.
It almost pains me to admit that.
Yeah, but her sister is horrible.
Oh God, her sister is so bad. And Alicia Fox isn't terrible, but she's not good. Naomi is pretty bad for as athletic as she is.
Yeah.
That whole, my job is going to be my finisher is to throw my butt in your face.
And Tamina's more like the bodyguard of the Young Bucks than anything else.
Yes. God, that would be perfect. If they could, oh my God, she needs to get fired and get signed by Ring of Honor and New Japan and have her hang out with the Young Bucks. That would be amazing. Oh my God, can you imagine? Oh.
Yeah.
And have you seen, jumping ahead a little bit, but speaking of big ladies, have you seen the pictures of Nia Jax?
Honestly, no.
Oh my God, that woman is Sasquatch.
I saw her first. I saw her first vignette.
Yeah, she is very tall, and she's built like Tamina, but she's bigger. I mean, this chick is monstrous, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
She's probably very athletically gifted in the ring.
She better be, or she's in trouble.
Well, most of those people. Well, then again, you got Bull Nakano, so.
Yeah, and I mean, then you think back to someone like Bam Bam Bigelow and Vader, who were just.
I love Vader.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Vader was great.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's finish up Raw here. There was a Ryback vignette backstage promo thing that was pretty bad.
Yeah,
He's another man. Just let him talk. That guy has a good personality.
yeah, I mean, it was interesting. It seemed different, but it was too short to mean anything.
Yeah. Kevin Owens had a match with Sin Cara, who is just a botcher and a half. The best thing I think of that match, aside from Owens mocking the Lucha chant, was there was a couple of different points when he would go for a pin and he would only get a 1 count and he'd scream at the ref, that was 3. I love Owens.
Owens is awesome, and I love the fact that they're pushing him the right way, bringing him up through the mid card, and then hopefully pushing him to the main event and not making him like a John Morrison.
Agreed. Yeah, give him a slow build. I think it's to get people used to him.
Yeah.
Because he is so different than anything else that your casual fan is used to.
Yeah.
Um,
And I will say, Unico is better than the original Sin Cara.
True. That is true. I watched part of that match, Mystico, or Mr. whatever the fuck he goes by now, had with Rey Mysterio at, it was a AAA pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I watched that, and that match was not very good, from what I remember.
Mystico lost his, Mystico must have lost his skills.
Let's see what else did happen. There was Stephanie backstage with the New Day. Anything with the New Day is amazing.
Thanks, Brody.
Xavier Woods' faces that he makes, and she just was so pissed. That was a great segment. Then we had the whole Susan G. Komen thing, which, I'm glad that WWE supports causes that they love. That's great. But to take up a whole segment, granted, they've got 3 hours to fill, so part of me understands why they do it.
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting that Roman Reigns they had in the ring with them, so you know how they're positioning him.
Good point.
We then had the Dudley Boys against Kane and Seth Rollins, and a nice "We Want Sasha" chant during that match. I thought this was a boring as hell match, really.
Okay, what do you expect?
True. Let's see here. We then had a match between Team Bad and Team Bella. So what I didn't understand about this is when Team Bad came out, why they didn't use Sasha's music. They were in Boston, and when they won, they used Sasha's music. Why not have her come out to her music? I think the place would have gone nuts for that.
I think it's because they're trying to put over Naomi as the leader of the group and not Sasha.
Yeah, that's only going to work for a little while. Which, in the long run, that'll you're setting the seeds for a breakup of that team when Naomi gets pissed because Sasha's the one who's getting completely over, and she snaps on her.
Yeah, because Naomi can't get over no matter how long she's here.
Yeah, exactly.
Send her to TNA and put her back with Brodus Clay.
Heading to GFW/TNA. Next thing you know, Naomi's going to show up at TNA with EC3 and Brodus Clay.
Yeah, don't forget about Cameron.
Oh my God! Why have they not fired her yet?
I don't know. Maybe Linda's planning another Senate campaign.
And why? Speaking of, the worst, I think, woman in the entire women's division Eva Marie, apparently, in that match with Carmella at a house show, I don't know who screwed up, but, you talk about two people who are greener than grass, and Carmella got a concussion or something?
Yeah, it was a concussion.
And then...
well, I don't know if it was a concussion or just a stinger.
Okay. Either way, she was pretty hurt, and to me... Oh, go ahead.
Eva, you injure somebody in the ring, you need to be disciplined.
Agreed. I agree wholeheartedly. Now, and to be fair, we don't know all the details of what happened, but it sounds like it's probably pretty safe to say one or both screwed up and caused the injury. There have been rumors going around that they're going to move Eva to a non-wrestling role, which is where she needs to be. She needs to be as far away from the ring as humanly possible. Yeah. And this whole idea of there were all these rumors that they were going to make her the NXT Women's Champion. I can't imagine that, one, that was Triple H's idea, or that, two, it was an idea that he liked, that was someone, probably Kevin Dunn, coming from up high saying, we really want this woman pushed. We need you to make her women's champion, and so we can send her to the main roster. It's just... Oh, go ahead.
I totally agree.
Yeah. It's speculation, but that seems like what was going on, because she is just painful to watch.
Awful.
Yeah. Speaking of awful, there was the Summer Rae proposing to Rusev thing.
I buried that segment horribly on Twitter. Buried that segment horribly.
that was the worst part of the entire show, I think. Really.
Yeah. You thought Sheamus dropped their ratings?
Yeah, no kidding. I did like Cole though said to JBL at one point, "Are you crying?" in a really kind of sarcastic tone. That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was. And I'm probably reading more into this than there is really there, but I think you were starting to they were maybe setting the seeds for a Rusev face turn. Because to me it seems like the only way to really salvage any of this, other than just ending it, is to have there be some kind of double turn with Rusev hooking up back with Lana as baby faces, Ziggler hooking up with Summer Rae as heels, and then you could go into a Ziggler John Cena feud, which could be really good. I know JR had said, I think it was Mick Foley had said that he thinks there's a lot of money in a John Cena Dolph Ziggler feud.
Yeah, because giving Dolph a serious position on the roster, he could be good. Giving him a joke, he's going to be a joke.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think they should. There should be some final match where Ziggler turns heel on Lana and just somehow decimates Rusev. Where you
get out of that feud as quick as possible and move to Cena.
Yes.
Because right now, I still don't understand why Ziggler was stupid enough to sign back.
The only thing I can think of is because he is my understanding is he's a WWE guy. He was never on the Indies. Isn't that correct?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Gerald Briscoe signed him out of college.
So with that having been, taking into consideration that, you talk about someone, that's one of WWE's greatest accomplishments as far as we built this guy completely from the ground up, as far as someone who can really, really work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, hats off to him for that. But yeah, I'm like, why? Because AJ Styles has proven you can go out on the indies and make a good living.
Yeah, especially the New Japan chairman said he would want Ziggler and Cesaro.
Oh my God,
that's it.
Oh, can you imagine the matches?
I don't think Japan would be what's best for business.
Oh wow,
Japan definitely what's best for business.
Yeah. I really wish there was there's better New Japan programming in the States. I like
pay-per-view in the States again. I think this upcoming one.
Yeah, and I think it's Matt Stryker and Kevin Kelly are going to be doing the
commentary.
Yeah, so that should be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That should be. There's a part of me that I'm not trying to sound xenophobic. This is more of I would like to know what the hell's going on type of thing. But if the New Japan World had an English option, I would probably buy that.
Yeah.
Because I get the WWE Network. I really wish Ring of Honor had their own version of it. That, a reasonable monthly price to get all of their online content. So I have no qualms with what little money I have because, I'm poor. Spending that kind of money on stuff. But with New Japan, I honest to God would not know what was going on at all.
Yeah, that's the same thing with AAA. AAA used to be on in my area, and I would flip it on, and I was like, yeah, I don't mind watching the wrestling, but I don't know what's going on, so...
Yeah, and then it makes it so hard.
Yeah.
We then ended up Raw with the U.S. title open challenge. John Cena coming out, Ziggler's music hits, and then the New Day drag him out. And I loved Xavier's "Are we serious enough for you now?" comment, harkening back to the week before. I liked this segment.
I liked this segment. I thought the match wasn't that good. I liked this segment pre-match and post-match to really put over the New Day. But overall, could have been a hell of a lot better main event.
I think you're right. I liked that the New Day was positioned in the main event segment. I think that was fantastic. I loved that they were the ones standing over everyone at the end. That made them look very strong and very serious. We're not effing around contenders. I hated that the way the match ended, but I know that according to rumors, WWE has decided that they no longer want to have people kicking out of finishers as much as they used to. So with that in mind, as I understand that, okay, so we're supposed to suspend our disbelief and think that one AA, a freaking fireman's carry, is going to knock someone out to get a pin. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I still have a really hard time doing that. 5 AAs? Okay. I can see that being enough to take you out for 3 seconds. Now, granted, if John Cena put me in an AA on a bed, I would be laying there crying like a baby. Because I'm not an athlete. But at least it was a great ending. I loved Ziggler super kicking Cena in the face.
Yeah, because they're gonna follow up tomorrow.
Yeah.
With
so, and then the Dudleys coming out and the melee that ensued. I think I'm with you. I think the match was mediocre. The segment itself was really good.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if it was one of the I think someone on commentary actually mentioned this being kind of a paradigm shift, kind of a shift in power. And I kind of hope that's true, that they're going to start focusing on some of these newer guys. And you look at WWE and you think back to 93-ish when Vince McMahon decided, okay, Randy, Hulk, you've had your time. Your time's over. We've really got to push some new people if we want to have success. Granted, you then had 2 to 3 very dark years of some really good wrestling, but terrible ratings, awful buy rates, some pretty bad storylines. But then that eventually gave us the Attitude Era, which is that same generation of guys. And I see right now is kind of equivalent to 1993 in that you've got management, you've got guys who've been there for a long time who are just still holding on, and you've got this whole crop of new, ridiculously talented people that are ready to just take over, but they haven't pulled the trigger yet. And And I'm probably giving them too much credit, but maybe this is the beginning of the trigger pull.
I would love that, because I completely agree that now is comparable to the early 90s. But also, I don't think that they have compare, like, say Cesaro to Bret Hart is better than Cesaro.
Yeah.
And nobody on the current roster is on the level of Shawn Michaels. So I don't know if, like, talent-wise, who they had waiting in the wings back then is who they have now.
You know, I actually look at the talent on the roster, and I think they have a roster right now that overall is more talented than almost any roster they've ever had. They don't have anyone that's on the level of, say, a Bret Hart, but they have guys who are very close and who someday could be. I think Sami Zayn, at some point when he is healed and comes up, could be, one, I think he's phenomenal in the ring, and two, I think he could be a huge, huge star. Same with Finn Balor.
Yeah, I just don't understand why they... I mean, I guess I could understand why they took off Sami's mask, but you figure in WWE, Sami could have been a huge star with that mask.
He could have been.
So much money.
To me, yeah.
Gotta get to show him without his mask on, so...
And he without the mask, he's just, you know, he's the perfect babyface, just like Bayley is the perfect babyface.
Sure.
So,
sure.
Yeah. Well, that was Raw. Did you watch the 24 NXT Brooklyn special?
No, but I was at NXT Brooklyn Live, so...
Oh, wow. So you're in New York?
Yep.
Very nice. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. How was that live?
Wow. It was fantastic. Just Bayley and Sasha Banks made the entire show. Just Bayley, Sasha Banks. Well, the Bayley Sasha Banks one was, you know, it made the entire show.
I think that's match of the year.
Yeah, I mean, seeing Bayley do the reverse Hurricane Rana off the second rope was incredible.
That was.
It was incredible.
Did you have pretty good seats?
Well, our views weren't obstructed, which for the Barclays Center means a lot.
Okay, well, cool. Well, how was Cass and Enzo when they came out?
They got a huge pop. They remind me tremendously of Billy Gunn and the Road Dogg back in the day.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I would say that Enzo is probably a better talker than the New Age Outlaws combined, though.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm not quite sure why either A, they haven't been brought up to the main roster, or why in Brooklyn they weren't the guys to be in the tag team title match.
You knew they would win.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Though I've gotten to the point I really enjoy the vaudevillains.
Yeah.
I prefer them as baby faces, even though it was never a conscious turn.
Yeah.
And I like Blake and Murphy. I mean, they're relatively bland.
Yeah, very organic though.
They are, and especially once you put Alexa Bliss with them, that combo is magic. The three of them together, because she is the personality and the mouthpiece for them, and they can really go in the ring.
Yeah. I just hope that without the titles, they're not pushed to the background, much like the Vaudevillains were, because of the Dusty Classic.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll... Yeah, that's a good point. I think you're going to see renewed interest in the tag titles, and I think the Vaudevillains will get pushed back into the forefront again with that. Do what?
As they should be.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk about TakeOver. So we had the opening match, Finn Balor and Samoa Joe against Dash Wilder and Scott Dawson, who I'm going to be honest here. I thought at the first times I saw those guys, I thought they were absolute jokes. Because they were basically enhancement. They were jobbers when they first started. But then again, so were Blake and Murphy.
Yep.
And then when they got a win over somebody. It was Cass and Enzo. They got the win over Cass and Enzo. And then just things started to turn around. Which is something I think NXT does really, really well. Is you start these people off as enhancement talent. You let them get their butts kicked for a few months. And then they get somehow get a win over somebody, and then it starts to snowball from there. And all of the initial comparisons that were made to the Brainbusters, Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard with Dash and Dawson, I thought were crazy. And then,
I was one of those people that made the comparisons.
Well, I have changed my opinion. As I've watched these guys, I've really thought, yep, this is the second coming of the Brainbusters, which tag team wrestling desperately needs.
Yeah, they're not on par. Neither one of them are on par, in my opinion, with Double A or Tully on the mic. But in the ring, they're pretty similar.
I agree. I think this was a great match. It was just a really solid match. I liked the setup with Balor getting his knee hurt. So what were your thoughts on the match?
I liked the psychology of the match, attacking Balor's knee, which, in my opinion, should have forced him to end the match some other way other than the coup de grace. But I'm not very particular about the fact that he finished the match the way he did. Yeah. And I just think that because they were attacking his knee, he shouldn't have been able to go up and do the coup de grace.
Yeah, I did. I agree. I like that he sold it like it messed him up, and I love that later in the night he came out limping. I thought that was a nice touch. Yep. And I love the look on Samoa Joe's face in both matches when he wanted to tag in to do that. His look on his face was like, "Are you freaking crazy?" But it worked. We then had the Jason Jordan and Chad Gable against Rhino and Baron Corbin. What would you think of this?
I thought it was a lot better than the first one.
I agree. This was a fantastic match.
Yeah, exactly.
Much better than, it probably should have been. I think Corbin gets a lot of crap for his in-ring work. I think he's better than people give him credit for. Mm-hmm. And this match really showed it. Now, granted, I think Jordan and Gable are phenomenal.
Yeah.
And they have a very bright future.
Yeah, Chad Gable came out of nowhere and has taken it like a house of fire.
Yes. And I'm pretty sure at some point in the match, the crowd was chanting Gable's name to Kurt Angle's theme.
They were?
Okay. That Full Sail crowd is amazing.
Yep. They were chanting his name to Kurt Angle's theme.
Okay. And then at one point there was a Save the Gable chant. I thought was great. I just, in so many ways, that crowd, because they are so fun and entertaining, almost ruins other crowds on other shows because they're so much fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we had the Dana Brooke Asuka match. So, what were your thoughts on this one?
This was the first time I ever saw Asuka, and she seems like a machine. Unlike anything else in the WWE.
I agree. And I'm the same way. I'd never seen any of her matches. The little clips that they showed of her from Japan, which one I thought was great that they got permission to use those in all of her vignettes and video packages. But, oh my God, she was... I'm watching this, I'm like, she could kill probably everyone on this roster.
Some of the people on the roster I wouldn't mind if she did.
Exactly. And then I loved the moment when Dana just slapped her across the face and she got a "you fucked up" chant. I I thought that was funny. There was an Oscar City chant, which I loved.
Yeah.
I just... this was easily Dana Brooke's best match.
Oh, yeah.
And it was... It did a lot of really good things. One, it showcased Asuka in an amazing way, and it made everyone, I think, who watched that go, holy shit, this chick is awesome. But two, it made Dana Brooke look really good.
Yeah. And again, we set the bar so low that it wasn't that hard to make it look good.
True. But, you know, at least with her, you compare her to, say, someone like Eva Marie. At least Dana Brooke comes from an athletic background.
True.
And unlike Eva Marie, who's just, I guess, a model, actor, skank, whatever. But Dana Brooke, who on the mic is actually pretty good. She's pretty arrogant. I love the thing where she would pat Devin Taylor on the head during her interviews, which apparently is not going to happen anymore because Devin Taylor has been released.
Yeah.
So I see potential in Dana Brooke. So I think this match was really good in showcasing that.
Yeah, I could see Dana Brooke being a more attractive Nicole Bass.
Oh my god. Jesus. Oh, holy crap. Oh my god.
That's awesome.
Oh, damn. That's awesome. Oh god. We then had the Tyler Breeze Apollo Crews match. Breeze was so freaking over in this match. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So what do you think of both of these guys?
Tyler, I remember Tyler Breeze when he was, before he turned to Tyler Breeze. When he was, I forget what his name was before he was Tyler Breeze, but when he was the enhancement talent.
Okay.
And, I didn't know that until the E60 on NXT, that he changed from they repackaged him into Tyler Breeze. But I think he's done a great job with the Tyler Breeze gimmick, and I think he's extremely talented and could make it on the main roster whenever they feel it necessary to pick him up, call him up. Which I think he could be the guy that comes up next year for WrestleMania.
Oh yeah,
WrestleMania.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I think he's phenomenal. That E60 special on NXT was unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god. You talk about, and also WWE just screwing the pooch with not using that as a way to catapult Adam Rose into something.
Yeah, I think if Hunter was able to book the people that came up from NXT, tell Vince, you book these guys, I'll book the guys that come up from NXT, because I know how to book them, because I booked them down there, then he could take Adam Rose, he could take Neville, he could take Bo Dallas, he could take whoever else and just book them. And just tell them, no, you're not booking him, I'm booking him.
Man, from your mouth to Vince's ears, let's make that happen. That would be great. He could actually even make, the Ascension not awful.
Oh yeah, if anybody could, Hunter could. He did it once. Why can't he do it again?
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it was amazing when the Ascension came back to Full Sail for the Dusty Classic tournament. The reception that they got.
Yeah.
And just, even in the ring, I'm watching. I'm like, are we sure we're watching the same guys who've been looking like idiots on Raw and SmackDown and Superstars for the last few months? Because this team looks great.
Yeah, they push the people. Their core group of guys. That's it. Nobody else.
Yep, and that's pretty sad. What about Apollo Crews? What are your thoughts on Uhaa Nation?
I've been a fan of Uhaa Nation since the first time I saw him at the ECW. I wasn't there live. I watched it on iPay-per-view. The last ECW arena show when Evolve was there before the arena closed down for renovations. He opened the show.
Oh wow, man!
So I've been a fan of his since then.
He is. I think he's something special. He is.
For his size, he's incredible.
Do you think that he is someday going to be the quote-unquote first black WWE champion?
The Hunter said it in the conference call. Before TakeOver. People forget. I know that's why you say quote unquote, but people forget Booker T, world champion. The Rock is, though The Rock is Samoan, he even says he's half black.
Yeah.
So that means he constitutes as a WWE champion, and the first black WWF champion, a WWE champion.
Yeah, that's why I did the whole quote thing, because it's silly that they don't point to Booker T, even though I could say they make the argument, well, the big gold belt was really the WCW championship that we continued, which was really a continuation of the NWA championship and not the actual WWE championship.
It was a continuation, as in they used the same belt, but the title history was not a continuation.
See, but you know what's funny is, depending on when they talk about it, at times they will claim that yes it is, and at times they'll claim that it's not.
Yeah, but then you look on WWE.com and the title history starts in 2002.
Yeah. I wonder if that's because, and this is where it gets so freaking convoluted, is when you look at the whole title history, you have the NWA title, which liked to claim its roots all the way back to Hackenschmidt, which is questionable. And then WWF broke off and had their title. And then then they merged in, what was it, 2002 with Jericho when he won the WCW and WWE titles.
Well, not to interrupt you, but would it be where that title started in 1911 with Orville Brown, or would it be where it started in 1990? I want to say 92 or 93 with Ric Flair, when they made the international title after they pulled out from. Yeah, it was 93 with Flair when they pulled out of the NWA. Well, no, the NWA pulled out of WCW.
Right. Well, if I remember correctly, part of the deal when WCW finally got their hands back on the big gold belt was that they could claim the history of the NWA title as part of this belt. So they had the WCW title, which for all intents and purposes was still a continuation of the NWA title, even though they were using that other belt when Flair went over to WWE. And then when they got the belt back and they created the International World title, which lasted only for a short period of time and then was merged again with the WCW title, and it was a big gold belt. Mm-hmm. But they always claimed the entire legacy. That, and at one point, I remember during the beginnings of the NWO, Bischoff made a comment about this organization is almost 100 years old. We can trace our roots back to 1905, and that's when the world title was first recognized. It was Hackenschmidt against, I forget who. I actually am reading a book right now on wrestling history. And that was the belt that then Frank Gotch, had a part of and all that. So that is the history that they claimed. And part of there was a suit with when them getting the gold belt back that they worked it out with the NWA that said, yeah, we get to claim this title history. You can claim it too, but we also get to claim it. So and to me as a fan, when I think of WCW, I don't think of just when it became WCW. To me, in my mind, that goes all the way back to the Crockett years.
Oh yeah, I mean the Crockett years are the golden years of the company, and it slowly got worse after Turner bought it.
yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. So then we had the Baron Corbin and Rhino against Samoa Joe and Finn Balor, the final in the Dusty Rhodes tournament. I thought this was another really good match. Mm-hmm. In fact, as I was taking notes through this whole thing, I wrote, every match so far has been great. And then the Rhodes family came out and presented the trophy, I thought it was a really good moment.
Oh, yeah, I thought so too. I will just jump back to the Apollo Crews thing, and I will say that of the matches thus far on that show, I thought that was the only match that was very lackluster. Because people wanted Breeze to win, but Apollo Crews, they didn't really want Apollo Crews to win. Like the common consensus was him not winning.
Yeah, I can see that.
Breeze to finally get the big win.
I think it would have been better booking to have Breeze win.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see that. I think overall it was still a fun match.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you also, I think we all, as fans, had really high expectations because it's Tyler Breeze and Apollo Crews, for God's sakes. I mean, that match should be amazing. But yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and I will just add that I think in their match, Gable and Jordan showed tremendous potential to possibly be the leaders of the division in later years.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
And now, to answer your question about Joe and Baylor match, I mean, the segment overall, I think that in a perfect world, that should be the build to Cody Rhodes coming back to being Cody Rhodes and not Stardust. I understand they don't want to build Cody Rhodes back because of Dusty, but fact of the matter is, Cody Rhodes is 100 times better as Cody Rhodes. And could be world's champion. And finally be the first member of the Rhodes family as WWE champion.
Yeah, you know what? I agree. I think some of it is Cody himself. I think enjoys the Stardust gimmick, and I know he had put out some tweets right after after Dusty died that saying along the lines of, "If you think I'm going to exploit my father to improve my career, you're crazy." But eventually he needs to come back as himself. And this would be a good point to do that if they actually kept any continuity between NXT and WWE, which they don't, unfortunately.
To prove continuity between Dustin and Cody's careers, Dustin dropped the Goldust gimmick after a few years. I mean, I hope that it doesn't take Cody a few years to drop his gimmick, because
True. Now, did Dustin drop that gimmick in WWE, or was it when he left WWE for WCW that he dropped it?
He dropped the gimmick, I want to say, well, he dropped the gimmick and then went to the artist formerly known as Goldust. And then I think he dropped the gimmick in 98 again, where he just wrestled as Dustin, like the Born Again.
Okay.
And then he came back as Goldust for the last time as a heel with the Meanie and Ryan Shamrock. And then after that, little stuff, I think that's around the time he left for Atlanta.
Okay. Okay, well then we've got the main event, Sasha Banks versus Bayley, 30-minute Iron Man match for the women's title. I don't know what to say about this. Because just saying, holy crap, this is amazing, doesn't do it justice.
I have no words to describe the match. No words. You're right. Just saying that doesn't do it justice.
Sasha is such gold. That point where she took Izzy's headband, and Izzy's crying in the crowd. Oh my God, that was. I felt so bad because here's this adorable little girl crying, but then I was like, oh my God, Sasha, she gets it better than anyone. In a way, and I loved in the NXT or the Brooklyn special that they did. Sasha Banks was quoted as saying, "I always wanted to be the female Eddie Guerrero."
That's what she did. Her saying that and what she did That's an embodiment of Eddie.
I agree.
That's totally something Eddie would do. And, I mean, this might not be the popular opinion, but I don't really care about the popular opinion. I loved what Sasha did with Izzy. I don't really care that it made the kid cry. I love the fact that she did it.
Oh, I do too. And, after the fact, when everything was over and the cameras were off, she went over and apologized to her. And then Izzy made a sign that at the next NXT tapings that says, Sasha, it's okay if you want to borrow my headband, just ask. Which is freaking brilliant. I thought it was a great sign. But yeah, it was that match, and then all the post-match stuff where the entire roster came out. They were given flowers, and Sasha collapsed in tears.
Yeah.
I'm not going to...
The only thing that would have made that better if Medusa was there.
I think so.
If Medusa was there to fully endorse Sasha and Bayley, because she had, from my knowledge, she hasn't endorsed anyone from this generation. She's only buried them. Oh no, she endorsed Paige. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she endorsed Paige.
That's it. And you would think she would endorse more of these. I mean, I can understand burying the Bellas and all of them, but looking at this whole division that they've got, especially in NXT, and even just women's wrestling in general on the indies is so good right now. What? And I don't know how much of that is she's starting. I mean, she's helping with her own organization, or she's helping somebody with a new women's organization. Who knows? She's an interesting character. That the table for three that had her and Ivory and Molly Holly was really interesting.
I thought she talked too much, but that was just me.
Poor Molly Holly couldn't get a word in edgewise, really. But you've got these two very domineering personalities and voices in Medusa and in Ivory.
Yeah. I think all three of them would make a great agents for NXT to help, or even guest trainers like Adam Pearce.
Oh, yeah.
Just helping the divas learn. Because, I mean, outside of, now Bayley and Emma and Asuka, there really isn't any talent in the division anymore.
Well, I think you're going to see Billie Kay and Peyton Royce. I think are going to be two. They're kind of in the jobber role right now. Which is where Bayley and Sasha were 2-3 years ago. I think they're going to transition and become bigger and better because they apparently both had really good indie careers. And from what little I've seen of them in their matches on NXT, they're both pretty good. So I think those two have potential. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, when they took Becky and Charlotte and Sasha out of NXT, you gutted that division in a way.
Yeah.
But now with Asuka in there, I think with Peyton and Billie Kay, that'll help round things back out. It'll just, it's gonna be a ebb and flow as some people leave, other people are going to get built up, which is, I think, in the long run, a very good thing.
Yeah, but that's the thing. People have to give them the opportunity to spend the time to build them up. They can't have the instant gratification.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I think Triple H is smart enough to understand that. I just hope the fans will be smart enough to understand that. I
don't think many fans are smart enough.
Oh, you don't trust us as fans? Come on, man.
I don't trust. No, I don't.
We're not a fickle bunch of folks. Not at all.
We're not like the 1980s fans that'll wait for the payoff. We want it right now.
Yeah, and that's more of I think a whole societal, cultural thing than just a wrestling thing. But then the payoff when it happens, man, there was, I think, since I've really gotten back into wrestling in the last few years, the 3 matches that had, to me, the biggest emotional payoff were ones that were pretty long, slow builds. Daniel Bryan winning the title at WrestleMania 30. Sami Zayn winning the title at TakeOver, was that Our Evolution, if I remember correctly, and then Bayley winning the title at TakeOver Brooklyn. and especially the Sami Zayn and the Bayley matches, those had me in tears. And both of these Bayley Sasha matches had me crying at the end of it. 40-year-old man crying after a wrestling match. How sad is that? But
hey, I have goosebumps.
yeah. So in all three of those cases, these were characters that had been beat down, told you're not going to make it, and then eventually, after a long, hard journey, they got the big payoff. In a lot of ways, it was like, Dusty in the 80s when he finally beat Ric Flair. And you had that huge payoff. Or when Steamboat finally beat Flair. When
Flair beat Harley Race.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, those are all just, and those are moments that... Yeah.
When Magnum beat Nikita.
Man, Magnum, he could have been the NWA's Hulk Hogan had he not had to retire.
Oh, I made the connection that, up until one of the spots in the match, Bayley versus Sasha was like Magnum versus Flair.
Yeah, I can see that.
Up until Bayley did something that Magnum never would have done.
Yeah.
Arm drags, the Zack Sabre arm drags.
Yeah. So, takeover of all of the takeovers, all the NXT specials so far, which has been your favorite?
I mean, I'm kind of biased because I was there live for Brooklyn, so I got to say Brooklyn.
Excluding Brooklyn, since you were there live.
I think for the purpose of building to the future, this most recent one, because you saw so many people, because of the matches that have potential, from Corbin to Gable and Jordan, who, I didn't see enough from as much from Dash and Dawson, but Apollo Crews definitely. And, Bayley and Sasha proved, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the women, not the divas, the women can main event a major WWE pay-per-view and sell the show.
I agree. I think, for me, it would be this one, the Brooklyn, and then the Our Evolution with when Sammy won the title. I think those are probably my three favorites. Those were, but especially I think top to bottom card wise, this one might have been the best. Just from, granted, when you really look at it, there weren't a whole ton of people on the card because in the tag matches you had people wrestling twice. But it was, you're right, setting up for the future of people that you look at and you say, okay, if WWE screws these guys up, they deserve to rot in hell. That is how talented this group of people is.
Yeah, Hunter hasn't done that yet, so...
Yeah, and it's so funny. He has had such a bad reputation over the years. There were his whole reign of terror, and just coming off like a complete douche. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was him having kids. I don't know if it was that last feud with Lesnar when he finally said, I'm not wrestling full-time anymore. I don't know if he had a come to Jesus moment, but something has seemed to humble him. And now, whereas before when he was an active wrestler, it seemed to all be about how do I promote me and get me over. He now is, I want to create a brand and get everyone over.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, you never know. I will say that he was always the one that never had a problem with substance abuse, because he was always one who never did it. He was one of the only member of the clique that never did anything outside of steroids, but half WWE's roster did steroids.
Did? Maybe still do. But yeah, I hadn't thought about that. He has been sober this whole time, which probably also is why you look at him compared to the rest of that group, who are just not aging well, and he looks fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Shocker, clean living will do you good. All right, well, hey, did you see that Table for Three this week?
Actually, no, I did not.
You will have to go check it out if you have not been watching those. I think they're awesome. So just go check it out when you have time and tweet about it. So I like to hear your thoughts on it. Did you see Ring of Honor this week?
I did.
Okay, and so this was basically, and Ring of Honor does this because with the way they tape so far ahead in advance. Anytime they have a pay-per-view, it's a good 3 weeks later before anything happens on the show that is in regards to the pay-per-view or in reaction to it, which reminds me a lot of wrestling back in the day. Before Raw or anything, you'd have a pay-per-view and you'd go watch Superstars the next week. Oh, we had this great pay-per-view. We'll tell you about it next week. You're like, what? And then you see Superstars the next week. We'll tell you about it next week. You're like, what? Why? I think the NWA was the only one that didn't, but that was because they had their weekly TBS shows. Mm-hmm. But it really, from that standpoint, watching this, it takes me back in time to watching those old syndicated WWE shows, albeit these are 1,000 times better than those old shows ever were.
Yeah.
Now, did you go to the Field of Honor? No, this was the show. This was the same weekend as the all the stuff at the Barclays.
It was the same day.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I went to Barclays instead.
Had you planned before you heard about the NXT show? Had you thought about going to the Ring of Honor show?
Yes, I did. Because previously I had gone to Final Battle for the last 3 years in a row, but I hated it at Terminal 5 last year. So, and it also helped the fact that they're not having it in New York this year. So we weren't going to go this year.
Okay. Yeah, that Terminal 5 is an interesting building.
It's a horrible building for wrestling. It's a terrible building for wrestling.
It's a nightclub, right?
Yes, it is. It was built for concerts, yeah.
It is it's just weird. Is it hard to see the ring from?
It's not so much that, it's the fact that outside of the floor seats, there are no other seats. So that means for a wrestling show, you would have to stand up for 2.5, 3 hours the entire show.
Oh, gross.
I was sitting down.
Oh yeah, that's no bueno.
And it's not stadium seating; it's normal seating. If there is seating, because I think there's like box seating, but it's not stadium, where it's like higher up than the other levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Hopefully they won't run there anymore. Have they ever run the Hammerstein?
The Hammersteins, I guess management made the rent for the arena too high for Ring of Honor to run there and make money, so they stopped running the Hammerstein.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. That would have been a cool place for NXT to run.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course WWE can run there.
Right. There was the Time Splitters match, Kushida and Alex Shelley against the Briscoes, with Prince Nana on commentary for some random-ass reason. I thought this was a great match. Briscoes got the win.
Mm-hmm.
The thing, I've yet to watch a Ring of Honor show where I haven't seen a whole lot of great matches.
Yeah, ROH is usually good with the at least solid matches.
Yeah.
Especially with the New Japan talent. That talent exchange has benefited them so well.
I agree. I think that has been... I think for both of them, for both New Japan, I think Ring of Honor is getting more out of it than New Japan is, but I think New Japan gets a lot out of it too.
Yeah.
And I love how both organizations seem pretty willing to swap titles between the companies. Because, and I'm not sure with AJ's contract status if he is... I'm assuming he signed to both. So them putting the heavyweight title on him isn't a big deal, but guys like the Kingdom have had tag team titles over in New Japan, and as have Red Dragon and whatnot. So I think that's really cool that they're working so well together.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great to see.
And so then they said next week they're Watanabe. I have a hard time saying some of these names. Will be facing Jay Lethal for the television title. And they showed part of a gauntlet match, which was Cedric Alexander at the end against Watanabe. And that ended with the most wicked STO I've ever seen. I just thought he took off Cedric Alexander's head.
Yeah.
So, what do you think of those two guys?
The Watanabe and Cedric Alexander?
Yeah.
I think that since Cedric has gotten Veda Scott as his manager, the change in attitude, I think that's done him tremendously well. And shown that he had potential that nobody knew he had.
Oh, yeah.
Watanabe, I just feel like he's the guy who comes over from New Japan and puts over the ROH talent that people like Tanahashi and Okada won't, because they're the top guys in Japan.
I can see that. Yeah, I agree. Cedric Alexander, I think, is fantastic. I saw, was it last year, I came across a match he had on YouTube. It was a match he had with AJ Styles. And I want to say it was a PWG match, maybe. I can't remember where it was from. But it was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And from that moment on, I've been a Cedric Alexander fan.
Yeah.
But I think turning him heel, having him with Veda Scott is great. Because he'd gotten kind of bland.
Absolutely, I totally agree.
And when you have a roster like Ring of Honor where damn near everyone is freaking great, you can't just be great and stand out.
Well, that's what ROH always does. They always have the right idea of putting talent who they want to get over with a manager to help them get over.
And I'm relatively new to Ring of Honor, because their whole build-up, just like TNA, was in those years when I wasn't watching wrestling. But everything, I'm a loyal Ring of Honor viewer. Every week I watch it. And I try to go back and watch older stuff. And I'm really impressed with everything I've seen them do.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me wonders why they're not on a bigger level than they are.
Their value is horrible.
Their what?
Their production value. Like, their show looks low budget, and it doesn't look... their quality of show is well above their production value.
Yeah. And you would think they're owned by a major media conglomerate. You would think they would be able to get some money for some better production, but apparently that company doesn't give two shits about Ring of Honor. And here's your budget. Have fun.
Yep. And from what Cornette said, that they're a very cheap people.
That's a shame. In a way, it is... Ring of Honor's reached this level where they seem to be making good money, or they seem to be making money, and they're producing great talent. The people that are there seem to be happy, and if they keep producing good shows and the doors stay open and everyone makes a decent living, then okay, fine. That can just be where they are.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
Yeah. I would like to see them, move up a notch or two and really give WWE a run for their money.
See, I don't feel like it needs to be with WWE. I just feel like WWE needs to change. Surprisingly, Sid Vicious said it, that there doesn't need to be a Divas Revolution. There needs to be a company revolution. The company needs to get overhauled. I just saw it before I went on with you that Sid Vicious tweeted it. Cheap look to Sid Vicious.
I always liked Sid.
Yeah, I can't say the same thing, but that's just me.
Well, I liked him for what he was. He was a big guy, And Paul Heyman always used him best. You bring him in, you have him choke slam a few people, hit a few power bombs, and you have him leave. If you get to the point where you're putting your company's main title on him, you know you're in trouble.
WWE in 1996.
Exactly. WCW in 2000.
Oh, WCW in 2000 had a lot more problems than just Sid.
True, but it was kind of the marker when you know you were in the shitter when Sid is your world champion.
Well, it's also in the shitter when Don Harris and Ron Harris were anything for the title.
Fair enough. So then we had the main event, Ring of Honor. We had Roderick Strong against Okada. Nigel McGuinness came out on commentary. God, that was a great match.
Yeah, it didn't surprise me a bit that those guys had a great match.
Yeah, Roderick Strong, every time I see him, I keep thinking, hey, it's Ryan Reynolds. He needs to be the next Green Lantern. I tell you what, get Warner Brothers on the phone right now. We found Hal Jordan. His name is Roderick Strong. But yeah, this was a great match. Okada is ridiculously over. Now,
yeah.
So in Japan, is he a heel or is he a babyface?
I want to say he might be a tweener, but I'm not too sure. Because the only people I know off the top of my head of distinctive, face heel are Bullet Club's a heel and Shinsuke. I want to say Shinsuke's a face, but it might have been different now, but I'm not sure.
And which is so funny. The Bullet Club comes to the States and they're the biggest baby faces. They are so over.
Yeah.
And then, which is funny, it's how the heel-face dynamics change depending on where these guys are wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, just look at Bret Hart in '97 when he was doing the Canadian hero thing.
That is true. Man, Bret Hart, what was amazing about him is when he was a babyface, you loved him, and when he turned heel, you wanted to cut his throat. He was that good.
Yeah. Well, with company like Owen and Brian Pillman, yeah.
Yeah, that is very true. That was a hell of a stable.
Oh yeah.
Even he had the Bulldog in there, who I always liked.
Yeah.
And Jim Neidhart, who was probably the weakest link of the bunch, but
Jim Neidhart's always the weak link.
True. But he and Bret were a great tag team.
Oh yeah. Another one where the manager made the stable.
That that is because that was before really Bret came into his own on the mic.
Mm-hmm.
And Jimmy Hart, God,
Jimmy Hart carried him. Jeez.
It's so funny watching because as I've been rewatching Nitro, it's during that whole Hogan versus the Dungeon of Doom feud, which is just fucking awful. But Jimmy Hart was just so bad.
Yeah.
It was such a strange time in WCW at that time because you had that was the beginning of the cruiserweights, and you had these undercard and these guys who could really freaking wrestle. And then you had Hulk Hogan doing his Hulk Hogan-y crap.
Yeah, well, everybody else was booking that. Eric Bischoff wasn't booking the main event. Eric was just booking the main event, and guys like Kevin Sullivan and JJ were booking the undercard.
That's why it was so good.
Yeah.
Kevin Sullivan as a Taskmaster was kind of lame. The whole Dungeon of Doom thing, had it been, the Giant and Ming, and that's it. But you had Brutus Beefcake with face paint. Like, we all didn't know it was freaking Brutus Beefcake.
Yeah.
It was always a joke, except when he was tag teaming with Greg Valentine. You had Shark. For love of God, could you have given that poor fat ass a worse gimmick? Really? Kamala. You could have kept Kamala, because he was always scary as hell. But had they gotten rid of Brutus and Shark, that stable would have been a lot better. Because Ming / Haku was always a badass.
Yeah, I think the WCW missed the boat with him.
He was good when he and the Barbarian were a tag team.
Yeah.
They were really good. They had some really good matches with the Harlem Heat. They had some really good matches with Hall and Nash.
Yeah. Ming and the Barbarian should have been the ones who got the titles off Harlem Heat. Even if it was just a quick run, they should have gotten the titles off of them instead of Bagwell and Riggs.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, that was the American Males, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually I just watched that one recently. That was on Nitro, like number 2, I think it was 2 or 3 that I watched. It was right after pay-per-view.
So probably either early October 95 or late September.
Late September. Yeah, because next week, it was not number 3, because this week at some point, getting ready for next week's show, I'm going to watch Nitro number 4. But yeah, WC is such a dichotomy. You had such great stuff, and there was a match with Sabu against Alex Wright, who I always thought Alex Wright was kind of a joke, and then I saw this match, I was like, my God, that was really good.
They screwed the pooch with him too, Alex Wright.
Oh yeah, he didn't know how to book that. Let's put him in a leather jacket. Yeah, no, please stop that.
They really messed up with him.
It's so funny. They messed up with so many people, and you really think of it, if we take the people who were really built in the NWA, so you don't consider Sting or the Steiners or the Road Warriors or the Horsemen guys. If you think stars that WCW themselves made, there were what, 3 really? Diamond Dallas Page, Booker T, and Goldberg.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they made. Would you say they made Jeff Jarrett too, or?
I never took Jeff Jarrett seriously, ever. He just was a poor man's Ric Flair imitator to me.
Because I mean, without Jeff, they really wouldn't have had a world champion for the last year and a half of the company.
Maybe that would have been a good thing.
Back when, it probably would have been.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something about Jeff Jarrett that I never saw him as being much of anything. Plus, there was the whole thing. He'd been in WWE. He went back and forth so much that, he was a star. People knew who he was. But did WCW really create him? Did WWE really create him? Or had he just been around long enough and been on enough TV that people knew who he was?
True.
That's a hard thing. Now then you had the guys that WCW got to the point where they were ready to become stars, but had to jump ship to become stars. Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho. I'm sorry. WCW did make the Giant. He became a star.
Yeah.
So, but those others, and I mean, you really can't say Dean Malenko or Perry Saturn ever became stars. As good as those two guys were in the ring, especially Malenko,
yeah,
they were just never going to become major stars.
True. Yeah, because once again, you can't become a big star in WWE if you can't talk. Yeah,
which is kind of a sin, you know? Yeah. But then, especially in modern WWE, how much of these guys can't talk because they can't talk, and how much of it is because they are given terrible scripts? Roman Reigns, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, because how many of them are too scared, and how many of them are too scared to say the script is horrible?
Oh, you know that has to be a lot of them.
Crumble it up, throw it away, and tell the writer to fuck himself.
You know, I'm sure that has to be a lot of it. I think hopefully maybe there will be a change as people start to prove that they can make a good living not working in WWE but still being a wrestler. I think you're going to start to see more people standing up and saying no. And all it's going to take is one of the more well-known guys leaving and blowing up somewhere else. Let's say Cesaro leaves. And they cut bait with Cesaro. He shows up in New Japan and it just becomes this huge star. He's their champion. People going nuts for him. At that point, other people in the WWE roster, I think, are going to go, you know what? If Cesaro can do this, I can do it too. If they hand me something stupid, I'm going to tell them to suck it.
Yeah, I agree.
That's my hope. So let's do one real quick question before we get out of here, because I have taken up a lot of your time today, and I do appreciate you coming on. So if you could take anyone from, let's say, if you were given the reins to NXT, and you could bring in anybody from any organization across the world, who would be your first 5 picks?
Huh.
Not to put you on the spot or anything.
Well, I definitely signed Johnny Gargano to a contract. Gargano.
He's great.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would... probably open the checkbook for TJ Perkins, because I've always been a fan of TJ, and take him from TNA.
And what's his name in TNA? Is it TJ Perkins?
No, he's Manic in TNA.
Okay.
I'd probably go over to ROH and finally take Adam Cole, because Adam Cole has been on WWE's radar for so long that it's not even funny. Like, for the last 3-4 years, he's been on WWE's radar.
As he should be, because he's freaking incredible.
Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, I would say Jay Lethal, but I think Jay Lethal's past his due to come to WWE, and I think it's best for him just to stay in Ring of Honor.
I could see that, yeah.
You'd
probably say the same about the Briscoes.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially since they were offered a WWE contract and went to ROH, who upped their offer, and WWE said no, so we're not going to pay you more than what we're offering you. So
yeah. Chuck Taylor. I always thought Chuck Taylor could make it big in WWE.
Okay.
And bringing back either Chris Masters or Carlito.
Okay, nice. So I've at least one on there that would be on my list. Adam Cole. Then I would, and I'm going to count this as one, even though they're a tag team. The Young Bucks. From Lucha Underground, Angelico, and Son of Havoc, i.e. Matt Cross, who just is outstanding.
I agree. Completely.
And probably AJ Styles.
Now, based on your list, if I had to choose, I would bring in Matt Cross, but if I'm going to bring in Matt Cross, I have to bring Teddy Hart with him. Because I loved them as a tag team when they were in Wrestling Society X.
I would actually love to bring them in as the gimmick that they're doing in Lucha Underground. Bring Angelico, Ivelisse, and Matt Cross in together. Just because they're so good, the three of them.
Yeah, that works too.
Angelico is just insane. Those dives he did off of those bleacher things in Lucha Underground. Oh my god! Did you watch Lucha Underground?
Actually, where I am, we don't get Lucha.
Oh man. Okay, so I don't have cable, so I'm not even gonna lie. I watch it in probably less than honest ways. But right now, the entire first season's on their YouTube channel. It's worth watching. It really is. Say if you have the time, once a week, watch it. Watch an episode a week. It is so good. But yeah, Angelico, he would do these jumps because they had this. The whole setup is so unique. But next to the ring are these basically offices, and there's a balcony, essentially. And on more than one occasion, he would leap off of the balcony into the ring. And it's like a good 2-story jump.
Mm.
How the man didn't die or break his neck in the process, I don't know. But it was some crazy shit. But yeah, those are the ones I would bring over. If I was running WWE right now, there are people I would actually, if I was Triple H, I would say to Vince, hey, let me have some of these guys you're not doing anything with. Let me take back Bo Dallas. Let me take Cesaro. Bring a few of those guys back down to NXT, to where they're going to have great matches, where they're going to be super over, and look what it did for Tyson Kidd's career.
Oh yeah, Tyson Kidd was his renaissance.
That it was. Well, hey, I think that's about it. Anything else you want to talk about? You want to plug your site?
Why not? My site's WrestlingExpress.net. And, yeah.
Yeah, what's your Twitter handle?
At Wrestling Express with 1 S.
Okay, because Twitter sucks and has a character limit.
Yep.
All right. Well, hey, Michael, again, thank you so much for coming on. And if you ever want to come back on the show, just let me know. We can definitely do this again. This was a lot of fun.
I totally agree. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Oh, anytime. And once I get this will be online. I'll shoot you some links. And have a great week, man.
You too.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this week here on Around the Ring. Thanks again to Michael from Wrestling Express for joining us. Great guy. Check out his website, WrestlingExpress.net. Also follow him on Twitter at WrestlingExpress with 1 S. Give that man some love. Thank you again for coming on. Don't forget, you can check us out each and every week. You can find us on Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, and iTunes. And don't forget to head up to our homepage, aroundtheringok.wordpress.com. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, the same handle, Around the Ring OK. And you can also shoot me an email, aroundtheringok@gmail.com. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, love to hear them. And that's going to do it for this week. We will be back next Monday, so not tomorrow, the following Monday, for another episode of Around the Ring. Hope everyone has a great week. And as the great Jerry Springer always says, take care of yourselves and each other.
You've been listening to Around the Ring on the Spark Radio Network.
All you have to do is change your point of view. And believe.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. Bam! Woo!
That sucks more than anything that I've ever fucked before.
What? It's for charity.